Can you feel the energy in the gold market, in the silver market? We're having moves like I have not seen in the 20 years that I've been following it. But today, we have some fascinating information to talk about. We're going to talk about the Silver Institute's latest report, but we're going to go a level deeper and discover why we have even more to be excited about when we dig into these numbers. I've got some, what I think, in depth analysis that you're going to find extremely interesting. Also, we'll cover doom and gloom, catastrophe 2024. We're going to do an update there. What will the remaining 8 months of the year look like? I have some information that, look, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but things aren't looking very good. And we've had a rather calm beginning to 2024. We're also going to talk about China with gold, more incredible information regarding gold and silver coming out of China. We're going to talk about the gold standard one more time. I've got another piece of data, a fascinating graph that I think shows the world could indeed be waking up to a concept that we talk about on a regular basis, right? The world has never really gone off the gold and silver standard. But let's get started by talking about this big data silver, $50, $60 silver, $80 silver. Think about this, right? 1 year from now, could we be down here in the basement, us basement dwellers all hanging out, talking about $70 silver, $60 silver? Who knows? Quite possibly even $100 silver. Guys, nothing is out of the question. I was getting in the shower this morning and I was thinking about, like, what are the most fantastic numbers that you've heard for the silver price? I've heard people talk about $600 silver. I've heard Rafi Farber talk about the fact that if we get like a big blow off top type arrangement that occurs, that we could see a temporary situation where you might be able to buy a house for 100 or 200 ounces of silver. And people say, oh, no, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. Let me tell you something, and it gets me mad because silver and gold price can go astronomically high. They can go to infinity. And the reason why people scoff when we say that is because they say, well, the dollar will always have value. The dollar, it's recency bias. It's normalcy bias, because it's been that way the entire time that likely you and I have been alive. We think, oh, the dollar will always have value. Look, there could be a scenario that unfolds where the dollar does lose a crazy amount of value. Let me tell you something. Let me show you something. This came from our friend Silvershire. This is 50 cents. Uh-oh, did I lose a piece? Here's 2 silver quarters. And hold on. And a beautiful silver 50-cent piece. This would be the only way, and this ship sailed, right? This ship sailed. These are pre-1965, 1963, 50-cent piece. This is the only way that the dollar could permanently maintain its value, is if it was backed by silver. But I've gone on too long, guys. Let's go into the silver report information from the Silver Institute, and you're going to be absolutely flattened. Flattened? I don't mean to flatten you. Flattered? Would you rather be flattered or flattened? The choice is yours. Okay? You're here on your own free will, but we should be looking at, let me make sure I have this up. Yes, I do. Okay. We got a great synopsis from our friend Niels over at Kitco. And I have some data that I want to share with you, some thoughts on what they're saying. But the Silver Institute came out with their latest report. Silver to see second highest deficit in 20 years as record industrial demand rises 9%. Okay, so they're predicting a rise in industrial demand. That's from the Silver Institute's World Silver Survey. All right, silver prices remain well supported at elevated levels as robust demand continues to outweigh supply, creating further drawdown in above ground stocks, according to the latest research from the Silver Institute. Okay, now let's talk about this, guys. This is critical. This is big. This year, over the last year especially, there has been a lot of shade thrown at the Silver Institute's numbers, a lot of controversy, a lot of suspicion about these numbers, right? A lot of people think that the numbers that they're reporting underestimate the amount of demand. overestimate the supply. All right. So these numbers that we're looking at, the reality is this is great point number one. And I got like 10 great points for you on this. The reality is the numbers are even very likely even more favorable for silver as we head into the coming years. On Wednesday, they reported it. Metals Focus noted that industrial demand continues. This is crazy to dominate the silver market and is expected to hit another record high this year, rising 9% to 710 million ounces, propelled by the solar sector. No joke. Demand for photovoltaic solar panels rises 20% to 232 million ounces. The key here is the 710 million ounces of industrial demand for silver. Okay. Think about this. That pretty much eats up the entire amount of silver that the silver mining industry is producing for the entire year. Just the industrial demand. These are the numbers from the Silver Institute, which again are often being called into question now. Is the industrial demand even significantly higher? We've got the people over at silverwars.org pointing out that the military industrial complex is eating up a lot of silver. Is that factored in? To what extent is that factored in? But the big key here, guys, is that almost every ounce of silver that the silver mining companies are digging up is being absorbed by industrial demand. Okay, let's move on. There's a lot for us to be happy about. Let's just look at this very quickly. This is global demand for silver. Oop, hold on here. Hold on. I'm going to fix this so that you guys can see it better. There we go. That's better. Okay, so just look at the global demand for silver since 2014. Now we're going to talk about investment because when you look from 2022 to 2023, it appears that there was a big decrease in investment demand that pretty much accounted for the entire decrease between, see my cursor or my little magnifying glasses, 2022 and 2023. The orange section is investment demand. Had investment demand here, which is 2023, been the same as here, looks like to me we would have actually, pretty much seen an overall increase in demand. And we're going to talk about more good news regarding that investment demand profile as we move into the end of the year. Look, it's used industrial, investment, photography almost nothing. Jewelry, right? A big section, right? Silverware and de-hedging. But let's look at silverware, jewelry. Those are the two big ones outside of an investment, outside of industrial. Again, don't forget, right? The big gray section here, that pretty much equals the entire amount of silver that's being produced by the silver mining sector. All right, let's get on here. Let's move on. Okay. I'm going to hold on, bear with me, please. We're going to go back up to 100%. All right. At the same time, Metals Focus sees jewelry fabrication rising. However, the precious metals research firm forecasts disappointing investment demand. Thanks again to our friend at Niels for this great article. With physical bar and coin purchases dropping by 13% to 212 million ounces. Okay, my question is, how do they know these numbers were probably put together not too long ago? How can they even consider that they know what investment demand is going to look like through the end of the year? It seems to me, right? It seems to me that investment demand would be very, very difficult to predict. And at 212 million ounces, I want to put that into perspective for you guys. That's less than 1 ounce. That's like 2/3 of an ounce of silver for every U.S. citizen. So that investment demand picture could change, and it could change very, very quickly. In an interview with Kitco News, Newman's back. Hey, our friend Newman, Philip Newman, director and founding partner at Metals Focus, said the deficits are, this is where it gets more interesting, are starting to matter. Okay, deficits are starting to matter as above ground stocks continue to get depleted. He added that in a world of continuous deficits, higher prices will be needed before the stocks are released into the marketplace. All right, the deficits, guys, we are consuming more silver every year than is being produced. All right. Now, what is so critical for us to remember about that is that number, that additional number of ounces that's being demanded is being filled or plugged, however you want to look at it, being supplied from these above ground silver resources. Nobody knows for sure how many ounces are above ground. Nobody knows. Okay, that's the bottom line. But what we do know are two things, right? That number, whatever it is of above ground supply that temporarily is being used to supply the deficit, that number is finite. We know it's not, silver's not like paper money, right? Jerome Powell cannot print more silver. So we know that that number is limited, and we know that that number is being chewed up somewhere around to the tune of like 400 or 500 million ounces over the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, it won't last forever. It's key here. Okay, hold on here. Okay, we know that it's being chipped away at. I wrote this out for you. It's being chipped away at aggressively year after year. Okay, and there's a shocking double whammy effect to this that I'm going to get to at the end. Let's just go through this a little more, see what Newman said. It says, in this environment, Newman's back. Hold on. Newman. Newman said that although investors should expect to see some volatility, there's long-term value in the silver market, well supported by solid demand. Amen, brother. Quote from Newman, one of the advantages of silver industrial demand is that there's so many end uses that if one backs off, another one tends to pick up the reins. That is the exciting thing about this market. He said, let's just use AI. This is interesting. Artificial intelligence, right? The big buzzword as an example, not only in terms of the energy and computer power required, but what possibilities open up because of all this. What new applications will be created because of AI? Now, right, we knew that AI was using a lot of silver for the microchips that are being built, that are being developed to satisfy all this increased computing demand from AI. But I hadn't thought about the power needs as well. And silver is a critical metal in the green energy and the power revolution as well. So there's that other component that we really hadn't talked about. Although investment demand in silver has lagged, causing it to underperform gold, Metals Focus expects that this trend has only started to reverse. Newman said that historical average for the gold-silver ratio is around 70. I think it's around 60, blah, blah, blah. Even with the recent retreat, a still high gold-to-silver ratio will also attract some investors who view silver as undervalued over the long term, perhaps also as its strong fundamentals gain attention, the analyst said in the report. We're going to talk about the double whammy here in just 1 second. While investors have been slow to embrace silver, and we know that from looking at the SLV ETF, right? The amount of silver in the SLV ETF is down like 30 or 40% in the last 4 years. Newman said that growing deficits have changed the investment landscape. Yes. He added that Metals Focus expects the silver market to see annual supply deficits for the foreseeable future. Quote, a new dynamic is being established that is now underpinning the market. Investors should get used to the idea that deficits are here to stay for the time being. The forecasted 2024 deficit comes as Metals Focus said that the deficit in 2023 was 185 million ounces. The silver market has seen a structural deficit for 3 consecutive years. All right, there's the deficit. The big blue lines right there. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. So the key here, okay, the big shocking double whammy that we need to consider when we're looking at this. Well, triple whammy. Number one, the Silver Institute numbers are being, like I said, called into question. It's likely that the demand numbers are actually higher And some people are saying that the supply numbers could potentially be even lower. I'll leave you to decide that. There's a lot of other content creators that are taking on that battle. But let me tell you the double whammy, and I wrote this one out for you again. This is so big for us to realize, okay? There will be a supply demand imbalance. We know that, okay, which will propel silver higher. The deficit is only growing. The demand is increasing. The supply is going down. The added bonus on top of that, just that alone, fundamentally could get us to 50, 60, do you believe, $70 silver. But the double whammy, the bonus on top of it all is the fact that we also know that in real terms, the US dollar is, at best case scenario, going down, 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 like what we talked about earlier, right? The dollar could, some people are saying, this big Bitcoin billionaire said it could go to zero, whatever. I'm not predicting we're going to have $0, zero value silver, some massive crash tomorrow or next week. But I will argue anyone to the point that the dollar is going down. So you've got, number one, unbelievable supply demand dynamics in the silver market, the most undervalued asset, a lot of people are saying, in the history of the world. And on top of that, as measured in paper, unicorn, fart dust, fiat, whatever you want to call it, dollars, that will also be a second source of pushing the price higher and higher and higher. I have a feeling, right, that if you own some physical silver, that 10 or 20 years from now, you're going to be real happy that you made that choice. 10 minutes from now, who knows? 10 hours from now, who knows? But while we're on that subject, let's go take a look at the metals prices live as we're recording right now. This could either get us real happy. I need to update this, guys. We're over at Pimbex. Okay, gold's up 13, almost $13. Silver up $36. While we're here at the Pimbex site, let's all say thank you to channel sponsor Pimbex. They make this live stream possible. They make this video possible. If you're in the market for some silver, gold, if you believe, right, do your own work, do your own due diligence. I am not giving financial advice, but if you believe, after you do your research, that the gold price or the silver price or the platinum price are going to go higher and higher, and you want to buy some metals and you want to buy it online, do yourself a favor. Right? Put Pimbex into your mix. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I would say that you may benefit from comparing what you get from Pimbex to what you get from other online bullion dealers. You want to make sure it's a company that you can trust. I know that I can trust Pimbex, right? And I learned that from experience and from reading other people's experience. But you also want to get the best price because you want to get the most metal for your money. What I find when I deal with Pimbex is they check all the boxes. Where's that box? We got to do the box. There it is. I'm getting my hands straight. Pimbex, they check all the boxes. I think you'll find that to be the case as well. Let's move on. We've got more. Let's talk about doom real quick. Doom, gloom, right? The world is ending. The sky is falling. And I got the top 10 terms for doomsayers. Tinfoil hat, right? Remember, right? Is it almost over, right? Gold and silver have been on such a tear for the beginning of 2024. Isn't this strange? Because remember at the end of last year, everybody was making their predictions for 2024. The sky is falling, and I was part of that as well, right? I'd say, look, when I look out the next year, woof, feels like we've got, conditions that are could create a confluence of factors that could result in some pretty serious events occurring. Guys, the reality is nothing has happened here during the first 4 months. There's been normal bad stuff, but nothing big. Maybe some unfortunate escalations and wars, but no big deal. Are we still in for some very rough times going through the rest of the year? And I did some thinking about it. I was like, are the black swans still circling? Okay. I think it is, right? We're almost a third of the way through the year with nothing. Yes. Okay. Now think about this. These are just a couple things for us to consider. I'm not going to pull up the chart. I've done that the last few days. We are at record high interest rates, pretty much record high for the last 20, 25 years. That could create massive financial black swan type events. Okay. Government, the government, right? The amount of debt the government is. Nobody talks about the corporate debt. It is sky high. This is going to be squeezing the profit margins of the big major corporations, hurting the stock market because it will be eating into the profits of the big corporations. What about on a household basis? The consumer. That's right, you and me. Haven't we heard that? Hasn't it been beat into our head? We're the consumer. I mean, it's pretty sad, isn't it, to say, but that's what they say. The consumer is the backbone of the U.S. economy. Excuse me. Bad allergies here in St. Louis right now. Give me 1 second. I may be having a coughing attack on you. So we could be in for some financial black swans. This is under the best case scenario. This is the reality of what's going on right now on a geopolitical level. If the BRICS, right, or the rest of the world decides to make some kind of financial move, we could see some very, very crazy times, okay? Geopolitical risk is at an all-time high. We know that. We don't have to cover that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Domestically in the United States, socially, right, politically, are we not at like a period that maybe we've never experienced in our lifetime? How old are you? I'll ask you that question. I'm 54 years old. I don't ever even closely remember a period of time where things seem so screwed up as they are now. Not even to talk about the fiscal and monetary situation in this country, just the social situation and the level of unrest, the level of unhappiness. So we are, I think, still, we're not out of the woods. Could it be the case that we say, well, the first third of the year was pretty smooth, but the last 2/3 of the year really, really provided us with some serious, serious fireworks? So what do we call, right? Are you a doomsayer? Here's the top 10 terms for a negative person. A doomsayer, a pessimist, a catastrophist, an apocalyptic thinker, a gloomy Gus. I never heard that one before. Are you a gloomy Gus? Am I a gloomy Gus? I think maybe we're realist. I don't know. A fatalist, a prophet of doom, a negative Nancy, a melancholic, or a Cassandra. I don't know. All right. Is China taking all the world's gold? Let's go out and take a look here. Our friend Vince Lancy, I used to call it Lanchi, but I got yelled at. But I think then Vince said that it was actually pronounced Lanchi. Nonetheless, here we go. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Yes, you can. This was from Zero Hedge, and there he is right there. VBL, Vince Lancy, sorry. Talks about the $3,000 gold call from Citi. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about China and JP Morgan. Let's just read what he wrote here. This was a couple days ago, but this is very interesting. He said in November, Goldfix broke a story that a New York bank had taken delivery of COMEX gold and sold it in China to close the widening Shanghai COMEX arbitrage differential. We're going to look at this crazy difference. I've got some updated numbers between what gold and silver are selling for in the United States and what it's selling for in more of a cash market in China. Since then, maybe tons of gold have left U.S. shores for China. Since then, no one else has really discussed it. I love Vince. I'm going to have him back here in the basement. He was a guest about a month ago. But now it's becoming obvious who at least one of those banks was. This is interesting. Why would your head of trading visit the Shanghai Gold Exchange unless he was buying or selling physical gold on that exchange? Think about that, guys, right? Further, given the price in China is higher than the price of U.S. and he wants to make money, he's not buying China gold for U.S. delivery. And that is, I think I missed that part there. Yeah, here you go. JP Morgan Chase Bank visits the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Is JP Morgan saying, hey, yeah, China, we can deliver you all the gold you want because we can buy it cheaper in the United States and deliver it to you in China at a much higher price, making that difference, that price differential. And why is that price differential so important? Right? Because China is becoming more and more influential in the world in setting the gold price, in setting the silver price. Let's go out and look at what the Oriental Ghost provided us with here on Twitter. This is crazy. We're going to look at the numbers down here, but let's read what he said. April 19th, right, which is today. The market data for the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange, the silver vaults of the Futures Exchange dropped. Okay, so the amount of silver they had today and set a new low again since the C-19 pandemic. Investors here, this is in China, he's in China, investors in China think that if the inventory continues to drop without replenishment, it will still trigger a silver panic. Silver panic. Interesting. Is that another way to say short squeeze? I don't know. Okay. But look at these numbers telling us, right? The top line, silver, AG, closing price on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, $31.87. Same thing if we drop two lines down for the Shanghai Futures Exchange, $31.87. Hold on a minute. Let's run back out to our friends at Pinbacks and check what silver's going for here in the United States. Interesting, 28.56. So that would be, whoa, that would be, do I have that right? Almost $3.50, almost 10% higher on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. In gold, okay, thank you. Susie just informed me we have 200 likes, so I'm going to ring the cowbell here in just a second. Gold, right? Trading for 24.27, 24.41 on the futures exchange. And why is that so important? Because those markets are much, 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 much more physical than what we have here in the United States. Hey, let's ring the cowbell. Where's the cowbell? Where'd it go? There it is. Hey, thank you for being part of the basement. This is where I'm going to tell you, I'm going to butter you up and tell you all kinds of good things about yourself. You, right? Each one of you, right? But you, because you are the individual watching right now, are just as important as anybody else in the basement and the world. So it's a big deal when you join us. We're basement dwellers temporarily. And when you give us a thumbs up, well, hey, that means you like what we're talking about. You like the channel. And when we get to 200, I ring the bell. So here's the bell warning. Did a couple more there for our friend Jake from Jake's Custom Parts. And by the way, thank you to all the moderators who are here today and every day helping make the channel possible, helping make the live streams possible. All right. What about going back? $10,000 gold. Did he say that? Did you hear that right? $10,000 gold. What? Can it happen? I will argue, right? Look, $400 silver. $350 silver, whatever number you want to use. Are we moving back to a gold standard, right? If we do, if the world reverts to God's money, Mother Nature's money, whatever you want to call it, the money that's been money for 4,000, 5,000, 3,000 years, right? We could see, measured in US dollar terms, right? Remember this, I love these. They're so cute, aren't they? Woo, look, it has wings. It can fly, right? Silver can't fly. This can fly. It's paper. It's nothing. Measured in paper dollars, silver can go, gold can go super, super high. Let's go out here right now and look at an interesting new piece of data that we have. This is from our friends at Ron Oy. Global gold market capitalization. That's the value of all the gold in the world right now above ground to money supply. All right. So this is the ratio. All right. So right now, the global gold to the global money supply, global gold market value to the broad money supply ratio hits 13%. There could be some bad news in this, guys, because it's higher than it's been in a long time, as you can see here. However, However, so that could signal, right? If it dropped back down to, let's say, it was what, 5% back in for it to be at 5% right now, we probably would have $1,300 or $1,400 gold. I'll let you do the math on that. But what I would argue is what this indicates to me is a growing awareness, a growing movement around the world. And don't we talk about that all the time? What would that mean if the world is there any clue that we get that this is actually happening, that the world starts to recognize gold and silver as the only forms of real money, or at least increase the extent to which they value gold and silver as the backing of real money? Kind of like that guy that worked for the New York Fed. I think his name was John Exter. Spent a lot of his career talking about with Exter's pyramid. But what does he know? He just worked for the New York Fed, right? In a country that's probably the most anti-gold and silver in the history of the world. So the rest of the world is waking up. What do we know about the central banks, right? Is that why we're seeing this number go up and up and up? And I was thinking, at 15%, and we're just throwing numbers around here, but, to get it up to, let's say, 90%, that would be about a 6 or 7-fold increase in the price of gold. We would need to see gold at, what's that? That's like $15,000 gold. That's where these numbers come from. Will we see that day? We don't know, right? But does it indicate that the world is, to one degree or the other, right, moving back to a situation? We can call it a gold standard, or we could call it a situation where they're recognizing gold and silver as more of a backing for real money, real value. I think it does, right? I'll leave it up to you in terms of what your thoughts are on that matter. Oh boy, let's look at, we got more. Oh, the hits keep coming. Let's look at this. This is very interesting. This came from us. As you can tell, I just bought a new laptop, so now I'm being bombarded with laptop ads from Zero Hedge. Gold versus the S&P 500. Which has grown more over the last 5 years? And this, I believe, comes from Visual Capitalist. There it is right there. Yeah, from Visual Capitalist. Gold versus the S&P 500. And I'm going to make this smaller so you can see it, because you might just be surprised when we look at it, okay? Gold is, go figure, the gold line. The S&P 500 is the blue line. And as you can see, over the last 5 years, gold is up 81%, and the S&P 500 is up 76%. So gold takes the crown, right? That old barbarous relic that the Fed wants you to believe is worth nothing. Gold takes the crown. Let's get back here. We got a lot more still to cover, okay? Goldman Sachs came out with something that I thought was very interesting. We know Goldman is now predicting much higher gold prices for the end of the year, but one of their analysts, and I think this quote sums it up, said, Goldman says that there's an unshakable bull market right now in the gold an unshakable gold market. Why, my words are, you ever have that happen where things just don't come out right? Let me reread that to you. Goldman says gold is in an unshakable bull market. I keep wanting to say gold market, bull market. Gold is in an unshakable bull market. Gold and silver, guys, can have parabolic moves. No doubt about it, okay? Gold just broke out of a 13-year consolidation pattern. And, big super chat. Somebody gave me a big super chat? Oh, boy. Susie, if you saw that, please let me know so I can say thank you. Thank you guys for the super chats. But gold just broke out of a 13-year consolidation pattern. We could just be at the very beginning of this big move in the gold market and the silver market, just starting, because I'm hearing it from everyone smart, and it makes sense to me. Does this make sense to you? This is a big, critical, key concept that you need to understand. It'll make you feel good about your investment in silver and gold. It'll make you see that, yeah, 30, 40, 50, $60 per ounce silver, gold at 3,000. Could be very, very possible. Gold at 4,000, gold at 5,000. And this is the absolute fact that now everybody's talking about. The Fed is going to have no choice. And we could go through all types of.
Yes, it was Ben. So thank you to Ben, please.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for the big super chat. Thank you, guys. The super chats go a long way helping support the channel. So thank you. Okay, thank you. But the Fed is in a position where all they're going to be able to do is monetize the debt. Chris Marcus texted me last night this little 7-second clip from his recent interview with Dr. Jim Willey, where basically he was saying the Fed needs to lower rates, the Fed needs to raise rates, the Fed needs to do both. And as I understand it, and as I see it, the Fed's in a position where they can't do either. Okay, if they raise rates right now, right? If they raise rates, it will destroy the government. They're already spending $1 trillion a year on interest, right? The debt is growing and growing. It'll destroy corporations even more. It'll destroy you, right? If you have debt, it'll destroy the American consumer. They can't raise rates. What do you think about commercial real estate? For crying out loud, thank you, Ron McAdams, for that super chat. Let's put that up on the screen, huh? Thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. What do you think? In St. Louis, right? There's a building that sold for like $3.6 million that it sold for almost $200 million. I think it was in 2018 or 18 years ago. So, I mean, do you think they're going to raise rates? They can't. It's not just the United States, because the whole world, the whole Western world and a lot of the developing world is in the same position or even worse, right? I mean, rates can't really go any higher, right? But they can't go lower either, because if they lower rates at this point, nobody's going to want to buy the debt, right? Who's going to want to buy government bonds if the rates are lower than they are now? Hello, do you have a calculator? Right? Also, if they lower rates, inflation's not going away. This is the way it's going to play out. If they lower rates, inflation would explode. If you noticed, let's go here. This is live. Bear with me. I just read it. I saw it this morning on Yahoo Finance. Hold on here. Ron's miscellaneous money. Where is it? Yahoo Finance. Okay. Article. Right, the Fed has become nothing but a public relations. Here it is, right here. Goolsby, our old friend Goolsby, right? They talk out of both sides of their mouth. It's such a joke going on right now. I can't, Susie, I can't put up Ben's super chat because I can never go back and find. So Ben, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We recognize that super chat. It's super appreciated. If I could, I would put it up on the screen, but I can't go. For some reason, when I go back through the comments, I can't find the super chats. But Feds Goolsby says it's making sense to wait before cutting rates. So now all the Fed, right? Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsby said Friday that progress on inflation has stalled. Okay, and it makes sense to wait. They can't lower rates. They can't raise rates. Guys, here's the way this is going to play out. And here's how it's going to be so beautiful for you and me, right? And all of us that are invested in the metals. Inflation, they can't cut rates. Goolsby just told us they can't raise rates because I've already explained it to you, and I won't repeat myself. Don't worry. All the cataclysmic consequences of raising the rates. Inflation, the rates maybe will stay right around where they are. But guess what? Inflation's going to go up and up and up. And when inflation gets up here, that's when your neighbors wake up. That's when the gold and silver bonanza could potentially occur. Okay. Hey, I want to say thank you to First Mining Gold for sponsoring Ron's Basement. You can learn more about First Mining Gold, a gold development stage company with 2 multi-million ounce projects in Canada. And our friends at Fortuna Silver. You can learn more about them at fortunasilver.com. Thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you to all the super chats. And Ben, I'll say one more time, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't think you guys want to watch me struggle through here. I don't know where starred. Does that work? Oh, here it is. Hey, Ben, I was able to find it. Okay, starred. Okay, and Silver Surfer also gave a $5 super chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you for lining my pockets with a little extra money. It does, on a serious note, go a long way in helping support the family. Did you need something, Susie? Hello, Susie. Did you need something?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, usually it's at the very top of the top chat thing.
Yeah, well, it's different. I'm using this program called StreamYard, so it's a lot different. So you want to say hi to everybody, though, so they can hear your pleasant voice?
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday.
That's Susie. She's texting me last night screenshots of the Kitco silver and gold quote page. Silver Susie, and I'm going to tell you, 4 years ago, she could care less about the price of gold and silver. So it's very interesting. We are Zimbabwe. We are Argentina. We are Turkey. Well, maybe not quite, right? Because we are the world superpower. We are the world hegemony. But doesn't it feel like it's fading? And we know, bottom line, guys, bottom line, the Fed is going to have to monetize the debt. Okay. And when that happens, right, then it becomes even more of a doom cycle, right? It's like a snowball rolling downhill. And I'm going to tell you right now, what we have in this country due to poor decisions, due to greed, right, by some, not all, but some of our leaders in Washington, by their inability to make tough decisions, what we have is a snowball rolling downhill. Go look at usdebtclock.org, right? Watch the amount of debt continue to grow. And the key is it's not just growing, but it's growing at a faster and faster pace. So are we Zimbabwe? Are we Argentina? Well, we do have one thing in common with them, right? We have a problem with horrendous fiscal management, horrendous monetary policy from our Federal Reserve, but there's a big kicker that we need to remember, right? A big similarity, but those countries are smaller than us. We'll never have to deal with that. I got news for you. The other big similarity, number 3, that we have with those countries would be that we have to abide by, like you and me, every person, everyone alive on the planet has to abide by the laws of mathematics. There's no way getting around the fact that 2 + 2 = 4, right? 8 + 7 = 15. Whether you're in China, Venezuela, right? Australia, the North Pole, the South Pole, outer space, no matter where you are. I heard somebody say it like this, right? That not even God can change the fact that 2 + 2 = 4. So when that debt gets monetized, when we move into that phase of what's going on, because again, right, the situation's bad, but the big thing to remember is it's not getting better. It's getting worse, which means you better be happy that you've got yourself. How about I ping this old, Silvershire. I'm still using that. Look at that. Beautiful, really a beautiful silver round, right? You're going to be happy. This will be music to your ears. That you've got some silver and gold. No doubt about it. Bitcoin, all this talk, the Bitcoin debate is heating up, it feels like. Again, all this news about the halving going on. Peter Schiff is going on record still recently, really making a strong statement saying, you better sell your Bitcoin now or quote unquote, have fun being poor. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I'm not pro-Bitcoin. I'm just telling you kind of the situation as it's unfolding. Robert Kiyosaki is telling people to buy Bitcoin, but he's also telling people to buy silver and gold. Is that the same? Did you hear what Robert Kiyosaki said about silver? This was a few months ago, but it was absolutely shocking, right? He called it real money. This was on a tweet, and we talked about this, 3-4 months ago. He talked about silver going to $60,000 per ounce. I mean, can you imagine that? It would be very, very, very interesting. You know what? Do you know anybody from Toronto? I know 3 people from Toronto. They're really nice guys. But let's look at this story. This is an interesting story that came out about a major, where is it? Major gold heist, right? And this was a while back, but this NBC News, $14.5 million gold heist from the Toronto airport results in charges for airline employee and 8 other people. These guys stole $14.5 million worth of gold from the Toronto airport. I've been to that airport. I will tell you, it is massive. Toronto is massive. And the gate that they do the flights to St. Louis, I had to walk so far. By the time I got there, I thought, am I already on the US-Canada border at this point? But nonetheless, I digress. That's something very interesting. These people sold 6,600 gold bars worth more than 20 million Canadian dollars. All right. But let me read. This is a funny thing that they did. I thought it was kind of interesting. The story is a sensational one, in which probably belongs on a Netflix series. Hold on. That's not the funny part. Okay, here, let's hear it. Let's see how they did it. They finally said how they did it. How do you steal 20 million Canadian worth of gold bars? He said the late afternoon, a truck driver arrived at the airline's cargo warehouse with a fraudulent bill that was provided to an airline warehouse attendant. He said that it was a bill for seafood. I don't know why I found that so funny. Like, I'm here to pick up some seafood from the cargo warehouse that was picked up the day before and was used to pick up the gold. So they used a pickup bill for seafood to get all this gold. The duplicate bill was printed off at the Air Canada warehouse. They needed people within Air Canada to facilitate this theft, blah, blah, blah. So they finally caught these guys, and I guess that's where the story ends. I don't see here, and didn't read anything. They said they melted the gold down and used it to buy guns. Well, that's a lot of guns, right? No doubt about it. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of Ron's Basement. Happy Friday. All right, I'm going to look forward to seeing you. Yes, you next time. Don't forget, be nice to yourself. You're number one. You deserve it. And when we're nice to ourselves, it's a lot easier for us to be nice to other people. See you.